I don't have a gavel either. Do a virtual gavel.
Be perfect.
All right, so we're ready to go?
Ready.
All right, I'd like to call to order our first virtual meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the town of Kildable Hills. It's April 22nd. Hopefully we'll get through this together. The first order of business is to do a roll call so that we know everyone is here. I guess I just will call everyone's name out and you say that you're here. Commissioner Gray, are you here?
Here.
Yes. All right. Commissioner McAvee, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ingram?
Here.
And Mr. Commissioner Whitley?
I'm here.
All right. I think we have a quorum, so we can call this meeting to order. Hopefully the public, I see we got 22 participants, so some people out there, welcome. I'm going to read this quick statement because we're in this whole new world order. This meeting of the Kildable Hills Board of Commissioners is being conducted electronically via Zoom, as you can tell. The public is also allowed to participate in this meeting via Zoom. Anyone who wishes to speak during public comment should raise your hand. We use the quotes on that on the Zoom program, and when it's your turn, we will call on you, and then the microphone will be unmuted. Public comments that were submitted to Town Hall prior to this meeting will be read aloud first, and all public comments, as usual, are limited to 3 minutes for individuals. Moving forward, as we do the motions, we're going to try to make sure that you state your name ahead of time for the folks that are listening just via audio, and then I will go back over that during the vote to make sure that everybody knows who is voting and how they're voting. Sorry about the papers there. Moving on, I guess we are going to try the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. So let's go. We usually do the pledge first, right? I'm kind of out of sorts. Right?
Yes.
All right. I think we have a flag coming up, maybe. Possibly. It worked so well in rehearsal. Oh, there it is. Michael, you're still with us, right?
Yes, sir. Just one moment.
Okay, gotcha. There's a flag.
There it is.
All right. Without further ado, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow, that's super weird.
Yeah.
All right, so we can collect ourselves. Why don't you join me for a moment of silence? Thank you so much. Okay, let's see if we can get this done. The first item of business, of course, is the agenda, which you have. So we are looking to have a motion to approve the agenda. And
Terry Gray, Mayor, and I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
all right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gray. Is there a second?
Mayor, this is
Commissioner-
John.
Oh,
Mayor, this is John Whitley. I'll make that second.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Whitley. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Wait, hold on. We got to do a roll call, right? So
Correct.
let me do this again. Commissioner Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner McAvee, how do you vote?
yes.
Commissioner Whitley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ingram, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so we have an agenda. I'm Ben, by the way, in case you are listening and couldn't tell that. All right. Take a little getting used to this. Next item on the agenda is public comment. If I'm not mistaken, I should read this first one we got via email first. Is that right, Mr. Odell?
Yes, sir, and that was the only item we'd received by 5 o'clock today,
Right.
electronically.
And I believe that we had responded to it and sent them to the proper folks, but I'll read this real quick. This is from Ron and Cecil Saunders. They live on 1009 Sportsman Drive, and they're part-time resident property owners. So their comment is this. It is now well into spring, and as with all properties, ours requires and deserves regular attention. We work hard and take pride in the maintenance and appearance of our property. We wish to note that all property owners we know are responsible citizens, with safety for all being a top priority. We have a cottage for our family use only and visit frequently. We would encourage those in charge to provide property owners the access and consideration they need and deserve. We need it now. Question: when can we expect to be permitted to re-enter to attend to our property? What conditions or limitations would apply? I hope you've already answered our question. Respectfully, Ron and Cecil. So I think we have pointed them to that, the answers to those questions. So that is the only one that was submitted electronically. Let's see, Michael, I guess you can see if anyone is raising their hand. I don't see that on the screen at the moment.
Sorry, I was having trouble with the mute. No one has raised their hand at this point, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Seeing that no one has raised their hand, we will close public comment. Thank you so much. We made it through that alive. So the next item is old business. We had talked before about the flood damage prevention ordinance, and we got that presentation at our last IRL in real life meeting. So tonight we need to schedule the public hearing. I believe we picked out a date. Was it June 6th? Is that right? I don't have it up. I don't have it up yet.
June 8th, I think.
It's June the 8th.
Oh, 8th. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
June 8th.
June 8th. So I guess we need a motion in order to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'll entertain any questions that you might have about the ordinance so that we can get those out of the way prior to any public hearing, because the deadline will be June 18th for adoption. They have not done any type of extension on that due to the current situation. So any questions or comments that y'all have, I'd be happy to answer them now, and we can make any type of corrective or changes prior to or to the public hearing, and we can put it on the next agenda if there's more comments that you have or the public has comments. We want to get as much out of the way as we can before that public hearing, because that's kind of a drop dead date unless there's a special meeting to adopt the ordinance.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Do you find anything that you think needs addressing in there? It was pretty thorough and a lot to get through. Commissioners, anybody?
No comment.
All right. So I guess we need a motion to set the 8th, June 8th as the public hearing.
This is Ivy. I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for June 8th.
Excellent. We have a motion on the floor from Mayor Pro Tem Ingram. Do I hear a second?
Commissioner,
Very great. I'll second that. Go ahead, BJ.
no, it's fine. Hey, Commissioner McAvoy, I second it as well.
All
It's all
right. So we have a second from Commissioner McAvoy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will do the roll call again. Okay, did you say all in favor, or is it okay to just say, how do you vote? I guess how do you vote works, right? So Commissioner Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner McAfee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Whidley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ingram, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the mayor says yes as well. So we have a unanimous vote to schedule the public hearing for June 8th. Next item of business is new business. We have a site plan. You all have seen the plans, and thank you so much for delivering the big package in person to us. We really appreciate the extra effort. It's an impressive bunch of documents. Kind of exciting project. So, of course, this is the Fuel Center at next to Harris Teeter there at 2006 South Croatan Highway. Do you have any further things that we might not have gotten in our package to consider?
That's you, Cameron.
That's you, Cameron.
No, sir.
Okay. Gotcha. Commissioners, do you have any questions about the site plan or any concerns? I'm looking for the box and I see John and he looks, nope, but he doesn't say anything. All right.
Terry
Mayor, I
Gray,
have one- Go ahead.
go ahead, John.
Mayor, this is Commissioner Windley. One quick question for Cameron. I guess under this form, if you can see it, under the general questions 1A, we talked about the deceleration lane to that property. Because I had the same, when I first looked at this site plan, I had the same initial concern. You got the Harris Teeter gas station adjacently in front of the grocery store, but the entrances next to each other. It's awful confusing for southbound motorists. I'm assuming that deceleration lane is not an option for this.
Yes, so in initial discussions with the designers, Kimley Horn, who are present on the call, we did ask them to explore that with the Department of Transportation. The deceleration lane by NCDOT's design standards does not fit on this property. Additionally, the ownership of the grocery store, which happens to be the same name as this fuel center, the grocery store property is not owned by Harris Teeter. So we always do support interconnectivity of those sites, but the recommendation for a deceleration lane was not found from a DOT recommendation. It would not fit.
Okay.
And good news is the current site has 2 cuts there. We're going down to 1 cut. They're moving it further south from that Ocean Commerce Park entrance to the north, which is already confusing. They're using the maximum width and radius to get people off the highway as safe as they can. But we did explore that, but it did not meet the DOT design standards.
Right, it's got to be pretty long, like hundreds of feet, right?
It sure is, yes.
All right, and I guess, there were some items that needed to be resolved, and we should, if we're moving forward, we need to make the motion to say that those have been dealt with, I guess is the word I'm trying to look for.
Mayor, Terry Gray, I have a couple of questions as it relates to signage. And maybe Cameron or Meredith can answer this. How big of a square foot signage are they allowed to have?
For freestanding or actually on the structure?
Freestanding.
Freestanding is going to be 64 square feet.
64. Okay, so and they've got 57, so they're good there.
Yeah, and they haven't submitted final sign plans. It's very common, and we usually don't even get them in site plan review. We usually get a basic rendering of where the sign is going to go, but that won't get permitted until they've actually are nearly complete with the building.
And what kind of signage are they allowed to have in addition to on the building?
They're allowed to have, I think it's for every 2 foot of, let me look it up real quick.
Okay,
Don't know it
sorry.
off the top of my head.
It's based on the width of how much frontage they have on US 158. It's a formula based on the length they have facing US 158 divided by, I believe 2.
Okay, because they have a 29-foot sign on the canopy, correct? On both sides.
I'd have to look at the renderings real quick, but bear with me.
I think it's 2 foot by 29 foot.
They're not in there.
Yeah, I think that's, and the building length is 127 feet.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the width of the lot. The length of the lot.
Commercial.
The building isn't 100 feet. It's the by the canopy that's 100 feet, right?
127.
So it's an additional 2 square feet of wall sign for each lineal foot of building frontage. So they, whatever that lineal footage of building is, they can have 2 square foot. And I think
Okay.
we said it was 100 and,
127.
yeah.
Okay, so they're in compliance with 58 square foot.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and it's all LED lighting, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
That's what the sign plan says, that it's all LED.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, all right, I'm good with that. Just as long as we, make sure that this. I didn't really recollect any other gas stations that had that, so I was just making sure we were good as far as compliance.
The Speedway and also Kangaroo, kind of near the Dare Center, they're both LED signage. Our
Okay.
ordinance does prohibit, rolling numbers that you sometimes see on gas signs that actually can move. But
I
these
got
are set, and they don't distract drivers. So,
Okay, all right, good deal, good deal. That was the only questions I had.
all right, great.
All right, Mayor Sproul again. So we are looking for any other questions or a motion?
Any other questions?
Questions or a motion? We're open to either.
This is Ivy. I'll make a motion to approve the site plan as is with the adjustments that Cameron mentioned.
This is Terry. I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Ingram and a second by Mr. Gray. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. McAvey?
Yes.
Mr. Whitley?
Yes.
Ms. Ingram?
Yes.
And a yes from Mayor Sproul, so we have a site plan. All right, moving along nicely. The next item on our agenda is committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
None here.
None here.
I think everybody's been taking a little bit of a break.
Mayor, I have just a little bit of a committee report from the Outer Banks
Right.
Board of Tourism. We had a virtual meeting last Thursday. Obviously, lots of changes coming up with budgets and things like that. I would like to direct everyone to outerbanks.org/COVID-19. There are a lot of really helpful tools in there, especially for small business owners. There's some projections and some data analysis in there that might be helpful for some folks to take a look at. And then in addition to that, the Lee Nettles has proposed a marketing campaign, When the Time is Right, which is a pretty cool campaign. It's the Summer of Glove, and it's surgical gloves, and so it's cool. It's welcoming. It's serious but cute, and he did a really good job. So I know their marketing team agency is working on that, and so anyway, that's that report.
Thank you so much for that, Ivy. Really appreciate it. So no other committee reports then? We will
No.
move on. The next item is Commissioner's Agenda. Shall we start with you, Mr. Gray?
Yes, Mayor, I don't really have anything to bring forward other than the fact that I wanted to congratulate Debbie and staff on what an excellent job they've been doing during this event. I know that they've had to change their hours quite a bit, but I think that staff has gone overboard in trying to accommodate public requests and people needing information from the town. So staff is to be commended. They've done a great job.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gray. That's fantastic. Moving on, anything from you, Mr. McAfee?
Just, Mayor, I'd just like to, again, extend what Commissioner Gray said, and that all our essential workers for the town have done such a very good job keeping things moving during this time period. So we appreciate that. And then, of course, the citizens of Kill Devil Hills and the way that they've shown to stick together during this hard time. Obviously, we're all going through this, and it's new for everybody, and it's just impressive to see the people getting together and helping one another out. So that's been the silver lining of this situation that we're in. So I just want to applaud everybody in the town that's doing that, and of course the decision makers that have made the tough decisions, including yourself, Mayor. We appreciate all your work. And, there's no easy decision and there's no clear path, but we feel like you've done a really good job representing the town. And I know you're looking out for the best of the common good of all the people of the town. So we appreciate your work, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, BJ. Mr. Whitley.
I would just like to echo a lot of the sentiment that Mr. McAvoy and Mr. Gray just shared. Staff has done a phenomenal job keeping things running very smoothly, keeping the lines of communication going well with the town and for citizens. This town, as tough as these times are, they really have shown just how special our community is and all the different special ways people in our town have come together to help each other. There's too many to really share it in this moment, but it's been uplifting and it's been encouraging, and it makes me proud to serve Kill Devil Hills. And I want to thank you and everybody on the control group. You guys have taken on a tremendous responsibility, an enormous time commitment, and been in some pretty tough spots. And we're really pleased and lucky to have you all serving in that capacity. So thank you, Mayor, and thank all the folks serving on our control board.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. Ms. Ingram.
I'll just second what they all said. Perfect. Everyone said it beautifully. Couldn't agree more.
Right. Exactly. So Mayor Sproul here again, if you're listening on a phone. Certainly I will join the chorus of being impressed and pleased and proud of the staff and everybody over there that has worked so hard in these tough times that we're in. Particularly the communication has been excellent. Rachel has been doing a fantastic job on social media and the emails and all that sort of thing. And all of the updates that they have sent to the control group that go into that email that you all see from there. You could tell we're doing really well compared to some of the towns. Great job. So thank you so much for that. It has been a challenging time on the control group, as you might imagine, and I have seen some of the other mayors take some heat for a whole variety of things, one of which was not really addressing the COVID situation in their meetings. We were fortunate to have our meeting sort of late in the game, so maybe that's not as high of an expectation. Certainly, we have all found ourselves in a situation where we're communicating with a frequency we have not ever had to deal with before in our lives. In a lot of cases, the number of communications and the kinds of communications are sort of staggering. When people are not at work, they have plenty of time to write some emails, apparently. Yes, and but I think the elephant in the room is this week's developments with Currituck. In case you weren't fully aware of that, it was very much of a surprise to everyone, including Chairman Woodard, and even the chair of the Currituck Commission, I think, was quite surprised by the turn of events at that meeting on Monday. So I know that there was a lot of apprehension between Monday night and Tuesday when we made the announcement, but there were a lot of fine-tuning things that needed to happen during that day, and everyone was working quite furiously to make sure we dotted every I and crossed every T. In the end, I actually had some positive emails, which is unfortunately rare. People were pleased with how it went. Of course, not everybody. I kind of gave it about a 60-40, which in this world is a win. How we proceed forward, everyone always asks me what to expect, and I have a couple of replies, and one of them is that consensus takes time and effort to build, and all of the mayors are doing their part to try to steer us towards a solution that balances all of the different things that need to be balanced, and do it in a way that uses the science and uses the all the best information and the best data, so that we look back on this a year or 2 years from now and feel we did our very best to find the right balance and the right path for each of the incremental steps that we will probably take over the next weeks and months and really years. I know that you guys are out there in the field talking to constituents and folks from out of town and stakeholders of all type. Obviously, out-of-town property owners have been communicating more than in normal times. And there are, I think everybody is trying to do the best in a tough situation. So at least we have a plan in place. I did want to mention just one shout out to the folks down at Roosters, to Sue Willard and crew. They involved me early on in the preparation for what they've been doing, over 1,000 meals twice a week, with more, I guess the word I'm looking for, with more stringent techniques to keep everyone safe than any operation that I know of on the Outer Banks. They're really taking every precaution, taking everybody's temperature, checking in on them, keeping a finite group of people involved in it, wearing masks and PPE and gloves in the kitchen 100% of the time, which you do not see everywhere. So they are really a model that everybody can look to for how to run a food service operation in a very challenging time going forward, as we get back to a higher number of people on the island, and a new way to serve everyone's needs, grocery, cleaning supplies, and food and otherwise. So thanks for all of your advice as well. Over the last few weeks, I've had so many conversations with so many people, but all of you guys have given me great advice, particularly Ms. Diaz, and I have talked a lot, and she's been right on point, and I really feel fortunate to have all of her experience and institutional knowledge for being such a great town manager for so many years. It's really been helpful to me, so thank you to her and everybody as well. And Ivy, I know you and I have talked a bunch. Actually, I've talked to all of the commissioners. We have talked numbers of times about different topics, and your counsel helps make the job easier. I appreciate it. I have now gone on altogether too long for myself, but please reach out to me between now and the next meeting if anything comes up that you think I should know, or that you think that the control group should know, and we will keep on trying to do the best job that we can. All right, thank you all for that. And looking back to my agenda here, following the mayor's agenda is the town attorney's agenda. Mr. Varnell, do you have anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Something very brief on my agenda tonight. There was a memo that I submitted that's been included in the package. It certainly details things much better than what I'm going to attempt to do right now for our purposes. But as a cursory explanation, there's been a petition submitted to the town for an abandonment of a portion of Bay Drive, which exists as a paper street. And the reason we're bringing this up is that the petition is actually coming to the town as a result of a mistake in the document that was recorded in the public registry, which affected the abandonment that actually occurred back in 1993. To say that another way, this petition, or the land involved in the current petition, for abandonment was made on April 28th in 1993, in my opinion. This is after looking at all the documents from from the minutes of that particular meeting. The Board of Commissioners at that time did approve the resolution to abandon Bay Drive, or the portion that was being asked to be abandoned. Not only that, the town also received a separate lot that was owned by the applicant, and received fee simple title of that lot, and also received an easement over the land, over the portion of Bay Drive that was abandoned. These were great, huge benefits to the utility infrastructure of our town. What ended up happening, from what we can tell, however, is that when the document was recorded in the Register of Deeds, the wrong survey was included, and a description based on that survey was attached to the resolution. This appears to be by full inadvertence and mistake. There's nothing within the minutes that would indicate that the small triangular portion of land which we are currently dealing with, or it's an odd shape of land, I'll say, which is, by the way, bound on all sides by the applicant. There's actually no adjoining landowner different than the applicant with any interest in the matter. So there's no reason to believe that there was an intent of the 1993 commissioners to not approve the abandonment in full, to include the portion that the new application represents. My main concern, and I believe the town's main concern, and the reason we're asking for your direction tonight, of course, if my analysis is correct, then what we're doing is potentially putting back in the public purview a decision that was made by a past board, and we're allowing scrutiny of that decision. And of course, the extra work involved with public hearings. That's something that I would caution opening the door to, certainly considering all the benefit that the town received from the 1993 approval on the abandonment. So tonight, ultimately, what we're looking for is a motion or a vote on whether you would like to entertain the requested public hearing that's before us now, or would you elect not to hold that hearing based on the concept that essentially the 1993 Board of Commissioners has already approved this particular portion of Bay Drive as abandoned. And in my conference with a title insurance company attorney, I have confirmed that the recording of the appropriate survey and description will suffice to clear title to any of the land that the applicant may be concerned about. So essentially, hold the hearing or don't hold the hearing, and advise the applicant that we'll get a corrective resolution will be recorded. After discussion, a motion will be in order on those two items. And of course, I'm here for any questions.
All right. Yes. How does everybody feel about that? Are you understanding how this is working? And maybe we'll ask Mr. McAvoy as an attorney. What are your thoughts first?
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's fairly clear that this property was to be transferred. However, I'm always a fan of going through that last step of public hearing if necessary. So I would lean towards that personally, but it seems clear that this was an inadvertent error, and that this property being surrounded entirely by the petitioner, it was to be transferred to the petitioner. So, I trust what Attorney Varnell says, and he's looked into it. I just I tend to lean towards allowing that last step of public hearing, if necessary, just to be clear. That's me.
Mr. Varnell, could you clarify what you thought that the downside was of the public hearing?
The downside is, again, reopening a past decision to scrutiny. I mean, if the decision was actually made, then, obviously the theory is that it shouldn't be made again, because that at the time was an acting board, and it did go through public hearing, of course, and times have changed, people have changed, and if we undo what was already done, perhaps in a public hearing setting, then again, that could open up a can of worms that we don't want to deal with. Now, having said that, again, I mean, to BJ's point, it is surrounded only by the applicant. I don't know who may come in and complain. I'm not saying there would be anybody who would come in and contest and try to change the I guess, potential outcome on abandonment. However, what we've got in front of us, again, is showing that the board acted in a particular way, and there's no harm to the applicant by not holding the hearing, considering this issue can be corrected for title purposes, which is ultimately what we're talking about, can be corrected via a simple corrected document recorded in the public registry.
Right, to sort of summarize then, it's a clerical error, and we're going to call it a spade a spade. A clerical error is a clerical error.
Yeah,
and it can be remedied clerically.
I would agree with that explanation, absolutely.
Any questions? Anybody else have comments? Ivy?
I talked to Casey about this earlier, and I feel comfortable with electing to not hold the public hearing.
Okay, great. John, did you have a thought about it?
No, I respect the original decision made. It seems to be the right one, and let's uphold it.
All right, Mr. Gray, any thoughts?
No, I'm fine with what was an error, and they need to probably go ahead and proceed with that. I'm not so much convinced on having to go through a public hearing with it.
So I did it again. Having everybody weigh in. Let's see if we can get a motion from somebody then.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to elect not to hold such public hearing based on legal concept of the applicant's purpose for requesting the hearing has already been achieved by approval rendered of the 1993 Board of Commissioners.
Excellent. We have a feedback, but we have a motion on the floor from Ms. Ingram. Is there a second?
Mayor, this is John Windley. I will second that.
And we have a second from Mr. Windley. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. We'll start with Mr. Gray.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. McAvoy?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Mr. Windley?
Yes.
And Ms. Ingram?
Yes.
And the mayor votes yes. The motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Mr. Varnell, for making something a little bit complicated a little easier to understand. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you, Casey.
Board.
Right. Getting back to the agenda here. Following the town attorney's agenda is the consent agenda.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'm Debbie Diaz here. I'm actually being listed as Michael Odell.
Oh, okay.
But before I do get to the consent agenda, if we could go back to the mayor's agenda.
Yes.
You did have one item in your packet.
Still getting used to this electronic thing. I must have skipped over that. What is it titled?
I'll be happy to address it if you'd like.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Thank you.
It's the North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 1591, Solid
Right.
Waste Management Loan Program and Local Government Special Obligation Bonds. Back in June of 2019, the General Assembly repealed this chapter of the statute by adopting Senate Bill 381. This repealed the administration of the program that was given to the Clean Water Management Trust Fund in 2011, because stating that the program has never been used or funded. This is actually the program special obligation bonds that we use to finance our beach nourishment projects. And it's very much needed by the municipalities. And what you're asking the board is for their approval to send a letter of support to reinstate the authority for local governments to borrow using special obligation bonds. And because without it, our capacity for borrowing money for beach nourishment would be greatly jeopardized. And the letter would be sent to our state representatives and also to the other Dare County local governments. From some of the correspondence that we've shared with the board this week, as you know, it's beginning to look more and more favorable, but I think this one extra step would be beneficial.
Right, yeah, it does seem like the ball is moving down the court, but it can't be, it's so important. So we should definitely weigh in. I'm sure many others will weigh in the same way. So that's just by consent, or do we need a vote for that?
Consensus is fine.
Okay, everybody feel good about sending that letter?
Yes.
I like
Good
the
with that.
thumbs up. For people on the phone, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up, so that's Zoom for consensus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before the consent agenda, I would like to thank all of the board members and the mayor for their kind words to the staff, and we will certainly pass that along. I've also been very proud of the employees. We have people working from home. We have people here in the office, and everybody has seemed to go the extra distance. But Mayor, in particular, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and your guidance, recognizing how difficult these decisions that the control group was having to make, but just so appreciate the responses that you've given to the citizens and the non-resident property owners. They've all been very informative, speaking to the issue and speaking to the fact that these are hard decisions to make. So thank you all. Go through the consent agenda. It's a little long. There's a lot of information. Before I start, I just want to ask if there's any item on the consent agenda that you'd like removed for additional discussion.
Commissioners,
If not,
anybody?
then I'll begin with item 1, which is the minutes from March 9th, 2020, the February 2020 monthly report. We have several public hearings that we're requesting to be scheduled for the June 8th. Make sure some of the public hearings we're looking at for Monday, June 8th, and some we're looking at for May the 11th. Sorry, a little confused there. Let me just skip over number 3 until we can get some clarification on that. Number 4, recommendation for 2019-2020 lease purchase agreements. Financing, that's $1,235,726.65. We're recommending BB&T as the favorable, with a favorable proposal at a rate of 2.43%. And approval of the consent agenda will approve budget amendment number 19 to record the annual lease for the equipment and vehicles and the accompanying resolution. Budget amendment, and for number 5, budget amendment number 20 is to record the sale and trade of the surplus excavator. Those proceeds will be added to purchase the new excavator and then to record the lease payment for the excavator. And now to go back to the public hearings. Which date are we? Okay, I'm just asking because of this.
Ms. Diaz,
Yes, Meredith.
I believe that all the public hearings that we put on the consent agenda, we intended to set for the May 11th, 2020 meeting. The only
Right, and the June
only
8th meeting was just for your flood ordinance.
Flood, we were trying to give the public as much time as possible to come to us or the commissioners with any questions they might have for the flood damage prevention ordinance because it was so voluminous.
Right, but I understand why we set that for the June 8th. I apologize for the typo in the memo. First it says we recommend Monday, June 8th, but actually all the public hearings outlined in the consent agenda, attachment CA, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3E are recommended to be scheduled for Monday, May the 11th. And the approval of the consent agenda will do this, and staff recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented, and a motion would be in order.
Terry Gray, I'll be happy to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, because I think we got an amendment, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've got a typo. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and that's
So-
fine. Thank
So
you.
the one that we received, the latest one, consent agenda, I would move that we approve that.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Gray. Do I hear a second?
Commissioner McAvoy, second that motion.
All right, we have a second from Mr. McAvoy. Is there any further discussion?
The only comment, Mayor Terry Gray,
Yes.
the only comment, I had some questions and some thoughts in my mind about the excavator, but after doing a little bit of research on that, and actually doing some soul searching on it, that's something that we can use when we start doing some of these improvements to some of our parks, and would be much needed. And I fully support that. So I just wanted to make that comment, that I think it's going to be a very instrumental piece of equipment.
If I may interject, Commissioner Gray, it's actually to replace the one that I think they just worked to death recently. And doing exactly
yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to say that Ross, is hard on equipment, but I think it's just beating over at the dog park, from what I understand, and I hear that it would take quite a bit of funds to repair some of the things that are just wore out on it.
Right. It's actually the hand-me-down from the street department.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So it's time to let it go.
Yep.
Got all the juice out of that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think we got our money's worth.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have a motion, a second, and is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
That's a yes and a thumbs up. Mr. McAvoy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Another thumbs up. Mr. Windley, how do you vote? Double
Yeah.
thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
Oh,
Right. Counts for a vote and a half. No, I'm kidding. And Ms. Ingram, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, I'll give it 2 thumbs up too. All right, sounds good. So that motion carries.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Diaz. I really appreciate it. Let's see, I've gone to the wrong page again. Still getting used to this electronic thing. Hang on there 1 second. After the consent agenda is one more opportunity for public comment. I see we still have a bunch of participants. Does anybody have a comment with the chat? Oh, somebody thanked us in the chat. That was so nice.
Oh.
I'm a non-resident homeowner in Rodanthe, and I appreciate all of you greatly. Oh, thank you so much. It's a different way to do a meeting. That's kind of a public comment, not really. So officially, though, any hands up for public comment? No?
No, sir.
All right, seeing none, we will close the second public comment. Response to public comment. Thank you, everyone, for taking it easy on us. Other municipalities have had some heavy-duty public comment for their meetings. So hopefully that means we're coming to another stage of this interesting time in our lives. And I know we will get through it together and be stronger for it. And after the pandemic in 1918, there were the Roaring 20s. So hopefully we have something good to look forward to down the line. That's our meeting, unless I have missed anything. If you guys can't think of anything else, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn our first Zoom meeting.
Mayor, I'll make that motion. This is John Windley.
John Windley made the motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second that motion.
Yeah.
Or third.
Yeah, it's just too much like the Brady Bunch.
I waited too long.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to adjourn. I guess we will do a roll call to adjourn. Terry, should we adjourn?
Yes, sir. And a great job, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Mr. McAvey, should we adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you so much. John Windley.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're adjourning. And Ivy.
Yep. Yes.
Right. I agree. I think we should adjourn. Thank you, staff, for making that as painless as possible. Other boards were mired in a bunch of difficulty, and this went quite smoothly, I thought. I guess we're all getting used to the whatever the new normal of the day. It changes every day. With that, I guess we'll sign out. Thank you so much, you guys.
Everybody be safe.
Be safe, definitely. Take care.
Thank you.